Lesson 3-2. Solve quadratic equations by factoring. Factoring is the opposite of foiling. Foiling was a method of multiplication, so we are undoing multiplication. Some terms, 5x plus 2 times x plus 5 equals x squared plus 7x plus 10. The x plus 2 and the x plus 5 are called binomials. Bi means 2. The x squared plus 7x plus 10 is called a trinomial because there's 3 parts. So how do we factor a trinomial? First of all, you're going to factor out any common terms. Like if they all have a 2, you'd factor out the 2. Then you write 2 sets of parentheses. And then we think about foiling. We do some guessing and checking. Find 2 expressions whose product is the ax squared and put them at the beginning. So you're doing the first, which gives you the first. Then find 2 expressions whose product is c and put them at the end of the sets of parentheses. So you pay attention to pluses and minuses. If it's a minus number, one needs to be positive, one needs to be negative. But in other words, you're doing the last, which gives you the last. So those are the guesses. And then you have to check. Calculate the outers and inners, and you compare it to the middle, bx. So we did the first, we did the last, those are the guesses, and then we do the outers plus inners to get the middle. If you're correct, well, that's good. If the outers plus the inners doesn't equal the bx at all, just try something else. You were just guessing, just guess something else. But if it equals negative bx, got the correct number but the wrong sign, then you change the signs inside the parentheses, and that should give you the correct answer. If you're completely off with the bx, then try something else. It's not bad if you mess up and get something else. It's just a guess. Guess and check, so you might have to guess a couple times. Let's start with this one. There's no common factor. So we have 2 sets of parentheses. We look at the first, the x squared. What times what makes x squared? Well, x times x. And then what times what makes negative 18? I don't know. Maybe it's negative. One has to be positive and one has to be negative. So maybe negative 9 and 2. So then we check. The outers are 2x. The inners are negative 9x. Add those together, I get negative 7x. That is not correct. Therefore, we should probably choose something else. Let's guess something else. So instead of a 9 and a 2, what else makes 18 when we multiply? All right, how about 6 and 3? Let's try that. Outers would be 3x, inners would be negative 6x, which gives negative 3x when I add those together. That's what I wanted. Hey, so there we go. Our answer is x minus 6, x plus 3. Just because you get it wrong on the first try, try again. Let's try another one. There's no common factors here. So 2 sets of parentheses times what makes n squared to be n times n, and what times what makes 9? It's positive. So it needs the same sign. Notice the middle is negative, so probably it would be negative 3 times a negative 3. So when I add those, outers plus the inners, I end up with a negative. Oh, but that's a 3, and I got a 6. Well, it's all right. Let's try something else. What else times what else makes 9? How about 1 and 9? So our outers would be negative 9, enters be negative 1, which gives me negative 10. Oh, that's even worse. What else times what else makes 9? Well, nothing. So our answer is cannot be factored, or maybe you could say it is prime. Pause this and try the last example. Again, there's no common factor, so two sets of parentheses. What times what makes r squared to be r and r? Times what makes negative 63. And what's what, 9 and 7? It's negative, so one has to be positive, one has to be negative. All right, let's try the outers. 7r enters negative 9r, which gives negative 2r. Oh, hey, look, that's the same number, but the wrong sign. So remember what I said? Reverse the signs in the parentheses. So instead of minus 9 and plus 7, we'll do plus 9 and negative 7, and that'll get you the correct answer. I mean, you could multiply it out, be negative 7r plus 9r is 2r. Look at that. That's the middle. Let's try some more. Let's see. Oh, hey, all of these are even, so I could factor out a 2. So we'll take a 2 out first. 14 is 2 times 7. 2 is 2 times 1, and 12 is 2 times 6. Okay, so you have our two sets of parentheses. What times what makes 7x squared? 7. I think it's just 1 times 7. Times what makes negative 6? Oh, negative 2 plus 3. Let's check. That'd be 3x. Negative 14x is negative 11x. Is that the middle? No. Well, that didn't work. Let's try something else. For the 7x squared, my only choice is 1 times 7. The 2 and the 3 didn't work out. Well, hey, maybe we could do negative 3 plus 2. So outers be 2x. Negative 21x is, that's even worse. All right. Still, for the 7x, I'm still stuck with 7, or 1 times 7. All right. To get this negative 6 here at the end, could we use? We tried 2 and 3. How about 1 and negative 6? Let's try that. Negative 6x plus 7x is 1x. Hey, that is what we wanted. Therefore, that is our answer. Let's try this one. Common factor first. I can factor out a 3. Oh, they both have an x. So if I factored out the 3 and one of the x's, left with an x. Factor out a 3, 18 divided by 3 is 6, and I factored out the x, and that's that. That one's different because it was not a trinomial. It was just two terms. Let's go with another one. Factor out a 3. So let's factor out a 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. So I factored out the 3. Then, a couple sets of parentheses. All right, to get the 4x squared, it might be 2x and 2x. And to get the 1, my only choice is 1 and 1. Check, it's 2x. 2x is 4x. That is not the middle. The middle is just x right here. Okay. Now, where do I have other choices? Well, the 4 might be 4 and a 1. But the third term, the 1, is my only option is 1 plus 1. Check is 4x and 1x. It's 5x. That is not just x, so that didn't work either. So we have tried all our options because 4 is only 1 times 4 or 2 times 2. And the 1 is just 1 times 1. Tried all our options. That is all we can do is factor out the 3. All right, let's try 2x squared minus 32. Well, let's see. The first thing we can do is it's even. I can factor out the 2. And then here, notice the 16 is 4 squared. We can actually factor this more. We can use the difference of squares, which says a squared minus b squared is a minus b, a plus b. So in this case, a is x and b is 4, so it'd be x minus 4, x plus 4. And we could double check that. We'd have 4x minus 4x is 0. And notice, what's the middle term here? Nothing. Now, the lesson is called Solve Quadratic Equations by Factoring. We've just been factoring. So now let's solve some equations. We're going to do that by using the zero product property, which says if you multiply two things and it equals 0, then one of those two things must be 0. So, solve a quadratic equation by factoring. You're going to make the quadratic expression equal 0. So it's going to have to be equal to 0. Factor. Make each factor equal to 0, because if you have two things multiplied, to make 0, one of them has to be 0. So you could just say pick one of them to be 0 and then the other one to be 0. See what you get. Solve each equation and then you check your solutions by plugging them back in. Alright, so let's solve this one. Notice it already equals 0. So let's just jump straight to the factoring. So what times what equals x squared? Well, that's easy. X times x. Times what is negative 42? 42. That's what, 7 and 6. One's negative, one's positive because it's a negative 42. Let's check. The outers are 6x. The inners are negative 7x, which gives me negative 1x, which does match the middle, so we're good there. So it's factored correctly. So now we're going to take each factor and set it equal to 0. So I'll have x minus 7 equals 0 and x plus 6 equals 0, because to equal 0, when you multiply, one of those has to be 0. And when one is 0, it doesn't matter what the other is. So we're actually going to get two answers. We'll get x is 7, we'll get x is negative 6. And then, of course, you should plug those in. If you do on your calculator, you'll see they in fact work. Let's try this one. It already equals 0. So we'll start right away with the factoring. What times what is x squared? It would be x times x. Times what is 16? Oh, how about 4 times 4? But I want it to be negative when I add, so maybe negative 4 and negative 4, because that still multiplies to make positive 16. Let's check. Negative 4x. Negative 4x is negative 8x. That works. That is the correct. All right, let's erase that check step. Those are exactly the same. So when I set them equal to 0, I only have to do it once because the other one's exactly the same. So I get one answer here, x equals 4. Now technically this is called a double solution because it's there twice. I could set both of them equal to 0 and I get 4 twice. All right, why don't you pause this and try solving this one. It already equals 0, so I'll just set up my parentheses. Times what is 9t squared? Oh, there's all kinds of stuff to guess here. How about 3t? 3t. What times what makes 4? I would like it to add to be negative, so we'll go -2 and -2 maybe. Then we'll check. It'd be -6t. -6t is -12t. That's what I'm looking for. Looks good. All right, let me subtract. Or not subtract, erase. Again, these are the same, so often it's written, like that. But you just take that factor equal to 0 and solve for t. So add 2 and divide by 3. And again, this is another double solution because the factor was there twice. So technically you get the answer twice, but it's the same thing. Oh, looks harder. Think you can do it? Sure. Pause this and see if you can solve it. First thing to do is get it equal to 0, so I'll subtract 3x and add 6. So it's equal to 0. Then factor times what is x squared? It'd be x times x times what is -4. I'd like it to add to be -3, so how about -4 times a +1? Multipliers make -4, adds to make -3. Check that, so it'd be 1x, -4x is -3x. Let's erase the check. All right. Set each factor equal to 0. Get x is 4 or x is -1. And of course, you should check those by plugging them in.